And a very good morning to you. My name is Antoinette Nirvana, and I am doing the Skype interviews for Body and Mind. Body and Mind is your health and wellness online directory for professionals. And today we're talking to one of our members, Guy McGowan, from the PowaForce Forum, an ontological coach, trainer, and author. And Guy assists you in realizing the fullest expression of your highest and wisest self. Good morning, Guy. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Antoinette Ivana, and it's lovely to be here. And also thanks to Tracy and Body and Mind.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, Guy, first of all, tell us a little bit more about who you are, Guy McGowan. How did you get onto this work and being a coach, and then we'll go into what the coaching itself is all about. So, tell us a little bit first about who you are.
Well, I have a background in advertising on the design side, and I'd spent nearly 20 years in that career, in that industry, and I realized at a point that this is not that was not what I wanted to do. That's not who I wanted to be, and it wasn't calling me. Even though I'm still passionate about design, etc. But I was just getting to the end of my road as far as that sort of path was concerned. It wasn't fulfilling me, and as in life, we all need breakdowns. My breakdown came along at the end of 2008, and I was retrenched. To cut a long story short, that got me to my crossroads in deciding who I was and what I wanted. And I had been on a program a couple of years before, and from that program, I had written on a little piece of paper what my calling was, and that was to make a creative difference in the lives and businesses of others. And at that point of indecision, I decided to get that little piece of paper out and measure it against my career in advertising, and I realized it didn't quite match up. And that at that point, I decided to become a coach. I didn't know what a coach meant, but that's what I wanted to do. I simply wanted to make a difference in people's lives, and that's how I started along that journey. I joined a man by the name of Pat Grove, and another chap that was working with him called Rod Finnie, who had already been my mentor for some years. Again, Rod and I then moved along from Pat, amicably, of course, and we started together the PowaForce Forum, and that's kind of where things started out for me in that regard. Unfortunately, Rod passed away in 2011, and Pat Grove himself passed away in 2012. So I was kind of left high and dry, but nevertheless, I had this overpowering belief in my calling, and I chose to stick to it no matter what. So that's been now going on for 9 years of this particular journey of mine. So that's where I'm at.
Wow, yeah, I know Pat Grove. Well, I knew Pat Grove and also did some work for him many years ago. So great. And so you got onto standing alone and doing your coaching. And then the ontological coach, what does that actually entail? And, tell us a little bit more about your power of change for business and personal,
Yes.
and all of what you then bring as a coach to an individual or to a group or a business.
Ontology is the study of one's way of being, to put it simply. So it's also, ontology is also an aspect of the realm of metaphysics, much like psychology, and where psychology deals predominantly with one's mind, with one's thinking. Ontology works with one's entire way of being. So, one's way of being constitutes one's body or physicality, one's moods or emotions, and primarily one's language. and that's where I focus a great deal on our language of communication, and of thinking. In terms of what I offer, there's kind of two aspects. Firstly, it's in terms of one-on-one coaching. So I work with an individual towards developing their way of being in terms of how they observe who they are, getting them towards what their calling might be, because a lot of us are, even though we might be essentially happy with what we're doing in terms of our career path, etc., as I was, there's something missing, and I assist people to become better observers of their language, and better observers of what is working for them and what isn't. So it's essentially a journey of self-discovery and really honing in on what it is that calls me forth. Then we move on to Power Change, which is a half-day workshop. And there we look at, aspects of life, like what is our movie? What is it that's in our subconscious that is powering through our lives, that we don't actually realize? What is the gist of that? And we work with trust as well, because that's a critical aspect of life and how we move into it and through it, with regards to trusting others, but most importantly, trusting ourselves, together with love, etc. And then we also look at our limiting patterns of behavior, and our language, and how that manifests in terms of where we are right now in our lives. Then we have Power Base, which is a 4-day highly intensive program, and that works with, it really helps us to see the world differently, and that's about as simply as I can put it, because each and every one of us have our own unique experience, and the processes of Power Base work to those limitations that we set upon ourselves, and how we choose to move forward into a new life, essentially. And
right.
So that's that. And of course, then we have the art of listening, which I know that you are particularly interested in. Hey.
Yes, no, I was just about to get into that. The art of listening, something that I have learned a few years ago, 2007, 2008. And it is, I think, something that everybody really needs to do a course on, is the art of listening, so that we really hear what the person is saying and what's behind that. So tell us a little bit more, because this is about you and the work you do, the art of listening, and the benefits of that, and how was that developed? Give us a little bit of background, a couple of minutes on art of listening, please.
Sure. Okay, so if we consider that in any given conversation, as you and I are having here, how we listen determines how we move forward in life, and generally in a conversation we are listening primarily with regard to how we are going to respond. So in other words, we are thinking 3 steps ahead. We are not actually listening to what the other person is saying. At the same time, we also, when we listen, we learn. So in any conversational engagement, we have an opportunity to learn something new about somebody else. But also, conversely, we have an opportunity to learn something profound about ourselves. So the art of listening is essentially an exercise. It's a straightforward little exercise, a dyad, in other words, an engagement between 2 people with a set of questions, and we run through those questions. We start to look at how we listen. In other words, it takes away the ability to, or the necessity to have to respond to what the other person is saying. So we can only just sit back and listen in terms of asking the questions. On the flip side, the person answering the questions gets to have a physical interface with somebody that they have to get to understand what they're saying. In other words, we have to enunciate correctly. We have to put our energy into what we're saying, and we really start to dig into our own abilities, etc. So we start to take charge of our life.
Exactly,
So,
and be really present for that person.
So essentially, there's the exercise, but I also run a workshop with regards to learning how to use the art of listening in our lives. So it's a really great little exercise that we can do every single day with whoever we choose, and it's also great for, after we've done a power change or a power base workshop to maintain the momentum, because quite often the stuff that we gain from a workshop is often lost, and we lose momentum. So this is a great way of just keeping in with what our choices are every day and how we choose to move forward through our lives.
Okay, great. Thanks, Guy. So where are you based, and how can people get hold of you? When are you running these workshops and groups? So if you could give us those details so that people know, how to get hold of you and how to join your groups.
Okay, so I'm based in Durban. At this point, I'm predominantly doing the one-to-one coaching, and that is working directly with individuals. I don't at this stage have any public workshops on the go. However, that's going to change soon, I trust, and then I work with corporates. So my contact details are, my email is guy@PowaForce Forum, POWA forceforum.co.za, and my contact number is 061-445-2841. And yeah, so we're looking towards, moving forward into arranging to have retreats, etc. as well. So it's growing.
Great, thanks, Guy. And so also, if they've missed any of those contact details, you can also go onto the Body and Mind website, which is www.bodyandmind.co.za, and you can just Google, or in the search bar go Guy McGowan or PowaForce, and that is POWA. Force, one word. So, and that's it for today, Guy. Thank you very much for chatting to us, and hopefully we can hear what's happening in the future.
Indeed, and thank you to yourself, Antoinette Nirvana. It's been a real pleasure.
Great. You have an awesome weekend, and we look forward to chatting to you again. Bye-bye.
Bye then.